day everyone, my name is Anel and I am a Labour Legal Advisor in SEESA Cape Town.
Good day everyone, my name is Gys and I am a Labour Legal Advisor also in Cape Town.
Good day Gys, and thank you for joining me on this very interesting issue relating to abuse of sick leave that employers often face on a day-to-day basis. Now Gys, let's dive right into it. When we're dealing with sick leave, how would an employer differentiate between those employees that are genuinely ill and those employees that are merely using their sick leave to excuse themselves from work lawfully?
Good day, Anel. As we all know, employees are entitled to a certain amount of paid sick leave over a 36-month period. This is, however, subject to one. In the first 6 months, the employee is only entitled to 1 day for every 26 days that he has worked. 2, if the employee is absent for more than 2 consecutive days, he needs to or she needs to produce a valid medical certificate. And 3, if the employee is absent for more than 2 days in an 8-week cycle, they also have to produce a valid medical certificate. If the employer feels that the employee is exhausting his sick leave at a rapid pace, the employer can investigate the matter and, should he decide, have an ill health inquiry for that employee. However, what about the other side of the coin? What happens if an employee produces a valid medical certificate to state that he is ill, however, then attends a private function or event?
So recently, the Labour Appeal Court provided some more clarity as to the court's view and interpretation regarding abuse of sick leave. And in the recent case of Woolworths versus CCMA and others, in this particular case, the employee pretended to be ill in order to participate in non-work related activities. The employee attended a rugby match with his father, and he was subsequently dismissed. And of course, the matter was then referred to the CCMA. Now, what's interesting about this case is that the stadium where the rugby match took place was located more or less an hour away from the employee's residence. And the managers argued that if the employee felt fit and healthy enough to attend a rugby match, he should have instead reported back for duty. Now, Gys, perhaps you can provide more clarity as to the CCMA's approach in this case.
Well, now, the CCMA found that the manager's view that an employee that is ill has to stay at his home and not leave his house was the manager's own opinion. The commissioner found that the dismissal was substantively and procedurally unfair and found that the employee did not hide the fact that he went to the rugby match and therefore was not dishonest. However, the case did not stop there. The employer did take the matter to the Labour Court. Can you explain to us what the Labour Court stated?
So interestingly, the Labour Court ruled that the dismissal was procedurally fair, but it was substantively flawed in that they relied on the fact that the employer did not have a policy in place which expressly stated that should an employee's condition improve, that he or she then needs to report back for work. The matter was then again referred to the Labour Appeal Court, and the Labour Appeal Court was then eventually left with the task to determine whether the employee acted in a dishonest manner and whether he made himself guilty of abuse of sick leave. Now, Gys, what did the Labour Appeal Court rule in this matter?
Well, now, the Labour Appeal Court condemned the CCMA's leniency and applied a much more strict approach, and therefore felt that the dismissal was indeed warranted. The court felt that an employee giving in a medical certificate, claiming to be ill, however, then drives a far distance to attend a rugby match, knowing that his employer will have to remunerate him for that time, is a form of dishonesty. Can you explain to us now what the court found regarding dishonesty?
So it's very clear that from this case that the court looked at all the elements of dishonesty, being, did the employee attempt to mislead or deceive his employer for his own personal benefit or gain? And considering the merits of this particular case, it's quite evident that that's exactly what the accused employee attempted to do. And as a result of his actions, it resulted in the breakdown of the trust relationship between himself and his employer. Now, Gys, can you explain to us why the trust element is so important?
Well, now, the trust relationship goes to the root of every employer-employee relationship. The Labour Appeal Court found that the trust was initially damaged due to the employee's unreliability, however, was broken by the fact that he acted dishonest. And this caused that the relationship has broken down irretrievably. Eventually, the Labour Appeal Court found that the dismissal was both substantively as well as procedurally fair.
So Gys, to summarize, in order for an employer to successfully prove that an employee has made himself guilty of abuse of sick leave, what exactly needs to be proven by the employer?
Well, the employee needs to provide the employer with a medical certificate claiming that he is ill, or inform the employer that he is ill and cannot attend work. However, his actions then would suggest the opposite. An inference can then be drawn if the employee was not indeed ill and only produced this medical certificate or made the statement to be remunerated and receive time off, as he was not really ill.
So the factors raised by yourself would then establish a fundamental case of dishonesty against the employee, provided that the employer can show that the employee acted with a dishonest intent, and he did so in order to derive some form of benefit which he was not entitled to in the first place. Now, if this case of dishonesty has been proven, would that then place the employer in a better position to justify the dismissal of the employee?
Indeed, it does, Anel. Case law supports the view that if an employer can reasonably believe that his employees will act reasonably and in good faith and act honestly towards its employer, so breach of this trust relationship damages the trust between the employer and employee. And therefore, if the employer can prove that, he would have a very good foot to stand on to claim that his dismissal will be appropriate in this regard.
Thank you, Gys, and thank you everyone for joining us on this very brief discussion of abuse of sick leave. It's quite clear that each case needs to be determined on its own merits and circumstances, and should employers face the same or the similar challenges in the workplace relating to abuse of sick leave, we highly recommend that you contact your nearest SEESA office for case-specific advice.